What's up, boys and girls? So I'm chiming in on this drugs, addicts, little exchange that's happening here. Original video by OWP. Response. There was a two-part response by Big Ho. And forgive my voice if it goes out a little bit, or it's hard to hear. I had some sinusitis and a bronchial thing that I am slowly recovering from. Lost my voice completely for a couple of days there, so I'm recovering a little bit. But I wanted to chime in on this because I think it's important. I listen to Big Ho's responses, listen to OWP's responses, original video, and I think it's important to keep all of these things that they're talking about in mind. And yeah, OWP, he did have a little more of a hardline position on it, but that's OWP, man. He's hardline on some of those things. I'm not saying he's an extreme guy all the time, but he's got a hard edge, and he's very much he's a tough love kind of guy, man. I mean, that's just who he is. But I think you need to keep in mind, I think the operative word that needs to be involved is empathy. I think we do need to have empathy. I'm not saying we have to have sympathy for people per se. People who make conscious decisions, irresponsible decisions, and irresponsible people who make conscious decisions to be that way. We don't have to sympathize with them. We don't have to empathize with those people. So many people, there's so many people out there that need to be held ultimately personally accountable for these things. I hold a really strong stance on conscious decisions, conscious decision making. My title of my channel, you see Critically Thinking Savage. Critical thinking, conscious decision making, accountability. I'm big on that. But I also understand, and you have to look at situations. It's hard to really generalize about this topic. I mean, you can make some generalizations based on some statistical information, but it's hard to generalize because there are so many different factors that are in. There can be so many different mitigating factors that can be involved. That can influence people's behaviors. It's funny because I'm a big proponent, obviously, of free will, but as much as people would deny this or would argue against what I'm about to say, probably argue against what I'm about to say, the human mind is more fragile than a lot of people want to admit, or they would like to admit about themselves, the potential for them to be more fragile, because we can make conscious decisions, but we can be conditioned, we can be manipulated, easily manipulated in many regards. There's so much of our subconscious and unconscious mind that are lost to our conscious selves, that is affected and can have patterns created and things like that, and be manipulated by certain things. In an environment, the people you grow up around, the people you spend your time with, the environment you grow up in, all of these everyday circumstances. Now, that's not to say that people will always be influenced, and they should not be held accountable for themselves. I'm not giving them a free pass. That's not what I'm saying. But there needs to be empathy and understanding when it comes to this. You can still hold somebody accountable if they do something, ridiculous or stupid. I mean, you could have someone that grows up in a home with abuse, a home with drug use, alcoholism, and people surround themselves. The parents are surrounded by those types of individuals. The children are constantly bombarded by that kind of behavior and in those environments, and it can be those influence can create hurdles that are hard to get over. It just depends. Some people won't get over that and will fall into the same patterns, and some people will. You can't necessarily make the argument that the people that don't are too weak, or just decided that they didn't want to fight hard enough necessarily. It's much more. There's much more. It's much more gray area than that. But instead of being black and white, I guess I could say there's many different shades and colors that are involved in all of that. So yeah, I think you need to be. I think there needs to be empathy and understanding, and a need to listen to individuals and take all of the circumstances, or at least all of the things that you could know and will know about a situation into effect. That being said, there are a lot of irresponsible fucking people out there. If somebody just decides with his buddies to go out and get loaded, and they get into a wreck, and they if they get loaded all the time and they get into a wreck and they kill someone or they hurt someone or whatever, it doesn't have to be the extreme. They need to be held accountable for that. They can't just say, oh, it's, I can't help myself. My dad drank a lot, and you can't necessarily do that. I think every situation needs to be looked at individually. But, for the most part, I think you can get a good idea based on someone's environment that they've grown up in, talking to that individual, their habits, their behaviors, the people they hang out with, that kind of thing. All of those things make up who they are and what they do. And I think you can get a good idea of who the irresponsible assholes are and who are the people who are really fighting difficult struggles, internal struggles, and have had a long history of fighting struggles to overcome certain obstacles to get over those situations. But yeah, I mean, I've got a hand in both cookie jars, so to speak. But I think it's important to look at the situation with. Obviously we need to use logic, but we also need to have some empathy. We can't have too much of an emotional response, but it helps to have some understanding and willingness to be open to trying to understand why someone gets into a position where they are. So anyway, that's all I have to say. I might have more to say. I might think of more later, but that's all I had to say for now. So, all right, gentlemen. Excellent discussion. Great topic. That's it. Peace.